Okay, hear me out. This is a story that not a lot of people are talking about, at least not in this way. Well, I guess except for you and me, and maybe the folks who actually watched the video that I did yesterday in this series, which is right there. I mean, if you want to catch up, or if you want to go back and watch the video from yesterday, please do. Just stay here, watch till the end. And maybe more people are going to start talking about it because there's some things that are out there now that are, well, little drips and drabs, pieces of information, etc., that are starting to bring the streaming conversation into full view. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about earnings versus revenue, and I think it's going to surprise you. I think you're going to be interested in these numbers. So, here we go. Let's start with accepting the fact that the studios survived nearly their entire existence because of theatrical releases. They put a film on a screen in a cinema all around the globe, and those can be rather profitable, especially if it's something that's popular. And that's where all the money came from. Colloquially, we would call this their bread and butter. Yeah, it really is. And that's where all the revenue stemmed from, well, since their very beginnings. Even with the advent of home video and the home video sales and all of its various iterations, and believe me, there's been a lot of those, even into the nascent humble streaming services, this is where all the money had been coming from. All the other things were ancillary incomes. If you think about it this way, 2018 was the biggest year that Hollywood had ever had, at least domestically. And that's the numbers we're going to be talking about today, because that's the numbers that are most readily available. They were absolutely riding at their highest point in 2018, with over $11 billion in theatrical earnings at the box office. And they have been doing that consistently since 2015. In fact, they were also serving up way more films. They were serving up 800 to nearly 1,000 releases per year during that limited window. And prior to that, I mean, they were also serving up, 700 to 800 going into that 5 previous years. And during that particular period, 2018 was a record for theatrical releases at 993, nearly 1,000. And all of those found their way into theaters. Wow. Believe it or not, in that same period of years, again, just that limited number of years, there was only one slight slowdown, and that was when Star Wars: The Last Jedi came out. It knocked the year-over-year total earnings down by 2.6%, so not very much at all. But those years were absolute juggernauts, and heading into 2019, we wrapped up the $11 billion a year theme that we were going for here with that solid run of the Avengers Endgame. After that, the pandemic. Everything has to change, or maybe the focus has to change. There may have been something quietly growing out there that no one was looking at. Something ubiquitous, but largely ignored. It was digital media of all kinds, and they were putting up some huge numbers. But now, they were set to absolutely explode. Popularity started to soar, and there was an emerging panacea, right? Digital media. Well, in terms of revenue, yes, this was somewhat accurate, but revenue isn't everything, and we're going to get to that here pretty soon. Let's put this in perspective. Take a step back with the widest possible lens. Shifting markets that were already gravitating toward digital media now took a wholesale plunge because they had to. They were desperate. Unfortunately, they may have chosen the wrong thing to dive into. And yes, talking about streaming. So in the full swing of, well, the lockdowns and everything else, every company, every studio, and every customer raced to adopt this new love of streaming. Studios put their all into that. They promised to ramp up production of original series and even lean into original streaming films on their services. Wow. Oh, and by the way, a few of those are pretty good. Not many, but a few. It was also going to be incredibly expensive to make this shift because they had to do it as fast as they could. But there was going to be a windfall of profits at the end of this, right? I mean, CEOs have been saying this at company events to their investors, and there would be profitability, right? Well, Disney's Bob Iger recently put a hole in this balloon when he begrudgingly admitted that much of their original programming didn't drive subscribers at all. The new inferior product didn't keep the eyeballs around either, and that's a real problem. Of course, we've been saying this for years now, but it's not the point of this video, nor is the point of this video the recent lawsuit that Disney finds itself in, along with former chief executive Bob Chapek and Kareem Daniel, and of course, current CFO McCarthy. That lawsuit is for real. We'll have to see what the results of that is. But again, we'll dive into that another time. For now, I only need you to keep two numbers in your head, okay? 14% and 20%. These numbers are significant, and they point to both the success and failure, even in positive numbers in terms of the actual revenue. What if I told you that other forms of digital media are really making a true positive impact? And they had been for a long time. I want you to keep those numbers I just gave you handy, because you're going to need them. Because in 2020 alone, and again, specifically in the United States, or what I say domestically, the digital entertainment market grew 14%. The digital entertainment market grew 14% in just 1 year. It's quite a lot. The bad news is, though, the DVD and Blu-ray market declined 20% in that same year. I have a few theories on that, and we can certainly dive into why. Obviously, with fewer films being released theatrically, there'll be fewer films available on DVD, but there are also fewer things to purchase from the back catalogs of all of these studios. So get into that maybe in a future video, but we're going to move on. With all this digital media growth, which includes streaming, where's the profit then? Because everything grew, and this is the very telling part. Theatrical film production is spinning back up right now, even during the beginning of this writer's strike, which could be a long one. And there are some stark realities that are going to go along with that, but there's also one that isn't talked about enough by the mainstream folks, which you've probably heard it here before, and maybe on some of the other channels that I'm on regularly. People are out of the habit of going to see films. They just are. It's become less palatable for a lot of folks. Plus, there's also the fear factor for some, still, for whatever reason. And of course, what we used to have, or what we used to refer to as FOMO, fear of missing out, yeah, that's been replaced with a different kind of fear. Fear of wasting your money, setting it on fire because you went and wasted your money on a bad film. And let me say this, there are far too many bad films out there. So let's be fair here. We've had a ton of Bud Light quality movies lately, and they have a lot more on the way because of those modern sensibilities that they're trying to sell everybody on, which nobody's buying. It's not like people aren't looking for entertainment, because they certainly are. And believe me, tomorrow's video is going to talk all about that and where they're looking for it. Of course, on the tail of all this, we're still talking about digital media content. It's just really easy to access, and so still ripe for growth. In seconds, as a matter of fact, you can actually begin to watch something that you may genuinely be interested in. You can also revisit a time when entertainment wasn't actually corrupted, when it was actually good. And that's just a decade ago or so. It's not that far back. And with a service, well, that's only costing you about the price of a movie ticket once a month. And it gives you a whole host of options. Ultimately, what is the appeal of theaters anymore? It's a good question. And I'm going to have to ask this question again, which is, so with all that positive, why can't the streamers make money? There's an easy answer, and you've been hearing it now, almost straight from the CEO's mouth. It's the overall content spend. It costs way too much. The evil mouse weatherman Bob Iger just said so. I read you the quote, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's focus back on 2022 specifically. For the year, consumers spent $34.5 billion on digital media entertainment. That's just in the United States. This number includes video on demand, it includes full-year subscription services, such as streaming, and it includes digital purchases that you might view on something like Vudu or something there. This actually includes a 17% increase year over year on the revenue yields from subscription services alone. Wow. Of course, some of that's going to be driven by inflation. I mean, it's been pretty crazy. And a massive price increase by the streaming services themselves, but it was still there. So here we are at last, the final boggle of it all. One pertinent question remaining. Where's the profit? Or, as I like to say, where's the money, Bob? Yeah, where is the money? How are nearly all of these studios and tech companies losing so much money on streaming every single quarter? Because they spend too much. Way too much. With, and again, I'm paraphrasing what Bob Iger said, nothing to show for it. Because it didn't do anything. It didn't organically grow their subscriber base. Nothing they did. actually made that happen. I mean, there are a few originals that move the needle. I mean, or there were. In fact, sometimes, I mean, you actually lose customers because of the originals that you produce. Whew, and that's not a good thing. These original series also actually keep you from reaching profitability because of how much they cost. And as it turns out, specifically for Disney and many of these other companies, profitability is well down the road from when they actually said it would occur. I mean, let's not forget the fact that Disney actually just reported a quarterly that stated that they had reduced their content spend significantly, but still managed to spend over $500 million in one quarter that they lost. All red. To sum it all up, and let's keep it rather simple, even with these great strides forward that we've seen in terms of revenue and growth, streaming's still a loser, and it's dragging everything else down. That's why you're seeing the pivot back to theatrical releases. Because not only is that producing content that earns money in the upfront, it also brings revenue in later with the streaming services. Or at least that's the theory. Anyway, this is part 2 of what I'm going to dub Streaming Week. We probably have a part 3, maybe even a part 4 set for later this week, or maybe even next. So keep your eyes peeled. If this is your first time here, please subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss one of these videos or any of the live streams or other content that I put up on my various platforms. I would truly appreciate that. And if you enjoyed the video, or if you have some thoughts or questions, please utilize the comment section down below. And if you have a suggestion for a video, let me know. I'll take a look at it. Maybe I can do something for you. For that, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye.
Today, be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.